Good morning, friends. Today's talk is on karma and reincarnation. To understand karma in its full sense, it takes us back to the three fundamentals of Theosophy, which are the source of all, the omnipotent, the unknowable, the being and not being, from what all came to be, the cycles through which universe and that source experiences itself, and the law that governs it all. And I've divided this talk in three key topics. One is understanding of what karma is. Second, understanding of what karma means to us, human beings, and our stages in the cognizance of karma. And probably most interesting and challenging to this student is how to change one's karma. I would like to draw a graphical representation. And start by readings from the Secret Doctrine, HPB. Actually, the beginning is it's not going to be from the HPB Secret Doctrine. It will be from the fundamentals itself. Fundamental identity of all souls with the universal oversoul, an obligatory pilgrimage with cyclic and karmic law. In other words, no soul can have an independent, conscious existence before the spark which issues from the oversoul has passed through every elemental form of the phenomenal world of the Manvantara. Acquired individuality first by natural impulse and then by self-induced and self-devised efforts, checked by its karma, thus ascending through all the degrees of intelligence from the lowest to the highest manas, from the mineral and plant up to the holiest archangel. What this student was understanding in this passage is that there is the source and there is the goal. And the source is that first principle, first fundamental principle is the unknown, the being and not being from what all life comes. And we can imagine the life springing from that. And there is the goal. And we can speak of goal endlessly. What is that goal? But the goal is at the end unity with all. Unity back with the source in a greater understanding and evolution of individuality and being. And the path from source to the goal is the pilgrimage that all beings, not only humans but all beings in this universe, take. And the path that they take is not predetermined, and that's the key distinction of how Theosophy understands karma from many other philosophies and religions, that there is no predetermined destiny that is set in stone and that you'll have to go through certain passages of suffering or non-suffering. The passage from the source to the goal is designed by each pilgrim. It is designed by the actions and reactions to the triggers that happen in life. But there is certain truth to the destiny and to certain predetermination of things, as there is a certain events and certain triggers that will occur in one's life and repeat occurring in one's life until that lesson is learned and the consciousness progresses to the next stage in uniting and coming closer to the goal. But it is the responses of each individual that will trigger the next step, the next turn in the karma of events. So we can put it in a way that some individuals may have a very straight passage from the source to the goal. Some may go in circles and going back and going forth. Some may have made a progress and then will return back. And there is no really one way that is predetermined how you get from the source to the goal. There can be let's put it. There can be the passage A, and from that, if somebody starts and then changes their actions, there can be passage B, and they all will be different. So there is really no preset destination or destiny or set of challenges or set of predominant factors in our lives. We are the ones who are creating our own destiny through the actions and through the law of karma that will react to our actions. Now there is an interesting paradigm in the universe that it seeks harmony. It is in a state of harmony, and in fact it is its beings that sprung from the source that often go out of that curve of the harmony. And here the reading from the Secret Doctrine itself. So long and short as the effect of his having thrown into perturbation even the smallest atom in the infinite world of harmony has not been fully readjusted. For the only decree of karma, an eternal and immutable decree, is absolute harmony in the world of matter as it is in the world of spirit. It is not therefore karma that rewards or punishes, but it is we who reward or punish ourselves according to the whether we work with, through, and along with nature, abiding by the laws on which that harmony depends, or break them. If to present this graphically, there is certain source, there is certain goal, there is a pilgrimage that all of us take, and there is a curve of balance in which universe is, and that's that curve of balance, that if our actions are within that paradigm of balance and harmony within a universe, positive things happen and there is no negative karma. And the thought that this student has is that there is no positive or negative karma. It is just the reaction to the actions, and what sometimes can be negative may be actually something very positive for us. If our actions are outside, on either side of that universal harmony and balance, that creates disbalance and suffering occurs. So this is as basic as the laws of physics, that if our behavior is outside of the balance of the universe, we are in a state of suffering. And the reason I put it on the upper side and the lower side, that sometimes our actions are malicious, and that certainly will create a state of suffering. But sometimes our actions can be very positive, but they create malicious outcomes. As in Christianity, there is a saying that the way to hell is paved with good intentions. But that, because the outcomes are negative, the karma will act in the negative way anyway, because you're outside of the balance of and harmony of the universe. So the goal is to remain in harmony and to remain in that space where you are in unity, and harmony is unity, because that's how the universe functions. It is all connected and united within itself. And the understanding of the student is, once you fall out of that unity, this is where we're going outside of the curve of balance and goodwill and peace. There is another very interesting passage in Secret Doctrine on motion and karma and life. Sometimes, especially in some branches of Buddhism, there is a belief that if you just don't do anything, you don't accumulate any karma. So you can just stay in a state of non-action. But here's what Secret Doctrine says about karma and motion. When the principle is moving from non-action into action, it begins to differentiate. This differentiation is karma itself. So any motion will become karma. And here is the passage. The one cosmic atom becomes 7 atoms on the plane of matter, and each is transformed into a center of energy. That same atom becomes 7 rays on the plane of spirit, and the 7 creative forces of nature radiating from the root essence. Follow one the right, the other the left path, separate till the end of the kalpa, and yet are in close embrace. What unites them? Karma. The atoms emanate from the central point, emanate in their turn new centers of energy, which under the potential breath of Fohat begin their work from within without, and multiply other minor centers. This, in the course of evolution and involution, form in their turn the roots of developing causes of new effects, from world and man-bearing globes down to the genera, species, and classes of all 7 kingdoms. So in a way, from this reading, any motion, any life that starts, and life is in a way motion, it is also karma. It is accumulation of responses and actions and reactions to that motion. And something that came to mind while researching this is the word emotion. Emotion starts the motion, that starts the action, and starts the response to that action. It is interesting that in some beliefs and philosophies and religions, there is also presence of this journey. The pilgrimage of a human soul is a very common theme. But the fundamental difference is that it is believed that you can make that journey in one lifetime. And then you are doomed to the eternal punishment or eternal bliss. That is very unrealistic, to achieve something in one lifetime, and anything eternal that is without motion is not life and is not evolution. So to say that something at the end is eternal and will stay in that fixed state is does not seem like a rational belief. If we look into the what Theosophy offers us and what is described in the Secret Doctrine, this falls into the law of reincarnation and cycles. It is, in a way, an eternal process, and only process can be eternal. That there are cycles that will be completed, but then the new cycles will begin. There's the life that will end, but then the new life will begin. And as our journey starts with the source and goes to the goal, not only many lifetimes will pass, but many cycles of many lifetimes will pass. And it will apply not only to us human beings, but to all beings. It is the passage through which minerals will evolve into humans. It is a passage when the Christ of the past will be us in the future. Another fascinating reading and a principle to be looked closely in connection with karma is one universal life, the life principle, that unity of all life. And the student looked at two readings, one from science and one from Theosophy. The scientific reading I would like to present is from the butterfly effect. When a butterfly flaps its wings in one part of the world, it can cause a hurricane in another part of the world. The butterfly effect is a sensitive dependence on initial conditions where a small change at one place in a deterministic nonlinear system can result in large differences to a later stage. And here is the second passage. Karma operates to produce cataclysms of nature by concatenation through the mental and astral planes of being. A cataclysm may be traced to an immediate physical cause, such as internal fire and atmospheric disturbance. But these have been brought on by the disturbance created through the dynamic power of human thought. This is quite interesting how the Theosophy fully supports the scientific findings, that it is the minor influence somewhere completely remote from where the effects are taking place can be influenced, and that can be influenced through the thought. That thought have that power. And when we look into the power of telepathy or influencing physical things with our thought, for this to happen, there must be some universal conduit, that is, this universal life through which all is connected and can be transmitted. This is the passage from HPB on life principle, the article. Occult philosophy has it that motion, cosmic matter, duration, space are everywhere. Motion is the imperishable life, and is conscious or unconscious, as the case may be. It exists as much during the active period of the universe as during pralaya, or dissolution, when the unconscious life still maintains the matter it animates in sleepless and unceasing motion. This again presents us with the principle of imperishable life and motion that is that life. That if motion is life, and motion is karma, life in a way is karma. Being alive means to create karma. And there is an underlying universal life or oversoul through which that principle put in place, through which it exists. The reason the student wanted to bring this up is that it seems as consciousness evolves, the beings with higher consciousness are able to conduit the thoughts much easier. If there are two people with a very basic spiritual development talk to each other, and one would smile and say, I really like you, and think you are the wickedest person I ever thought. The person who has not developed spirituality will say, I am the best person, he really likes me. But that spirituality develops as our ability to perceive open up, as the third eye also develops and able to perceive other things than just words and what we see. We are able to see that what is not said. Speaking of that, we of course cannot fool the universal life and oversolve itself. What we project into it, it projects back. And one example that I find fascinating, if a person thinking that I so much want to do good because I don't want to have negative karma, I just don't want to suffer, I'm going to do good. With that thought, it seems we are projecting, I want to do good. So if we want to do good, there will be more good coming back. But the really underlying feeling being projected, I fear punishment. It is the feeling of fear. I fear, and there will be reflected more fear. But if person says, I have life of abundance, and I want to share that abundance with others, there will be more abundance. As the universal life is not conscious in the way we are conscious. It's not reading thoughts. It's reading that emotion, the emotion of our spirit, and responds exactly with that. And with this, the next topic that a student would like to cover is the stages of karmic cognizance. This led to the research of stages of grief. And the correlation was very, very close to where I would see humanity dividing on its cognizance of karma and its stand in life. The first response to grief is denial. Why this is happening to me? Why me? It cannot be me. It cannot be happening. When the person is in that state of realizing it's karma, he basically says, this is all impossible, I don't want to go through this is all chaos, and the emotion projected into the universe is emotion of chaos. I am in chaos, everything is in chaos, and there is more chaos. So it's projecting that motion of chaos. Then there is a stage of anger. Why this is happening to me? Why he has done, she has done this to me? I'm angry at that situation, that person, that group of people, and it's a motion of anger. And when motion of anger is projected, the karmic response will be more anger, and it will keep on growing. The other stage is bargaining. If I do good things, will I get good things? If I do bad things, maybe I'll get less bad things. And the emotion that we project through that is neediness. We need something, so we're willing to do a little bit of that to get a little bit of this. And we will get more neediness. It's not a feeling of abundance. Then the next stage is depression. It's my destiny. The karma is just destiny. You can't change anything. It is fate. It's the ill fate, and nothing can be done. And that's the emotion of hopelessness. And the response, karmic response, will be even more hopelessness. And the last stage is acceptance. And when this student thought of what exactly acceptance means, it's basically saying, this is what it is. This situation is not perfect. Maybe what was done was not right towards this or that individual, but this is what is happening. And acceptance is basically a feeling of balance, that you are in balance with the situation. And the person accepts situation and accepts that it happened, accepts that it can be changed or it will make the individual stronger, and accepts that no matter what happened, he has power to start new causes and start new motions. And when you look at that feeling, it is the feeling of harmony. And once you are in the feeling of harmony with the universe, this is what the universe was trying to achieve all along, to get into the state of harmony. And that's when the harmony starts resonating back in the karmic response. Now, sometimes people would ask, how long will I grieve? How long will it feel this way? For some people, 3 months, for some 3 years, for some 30 years. Some never get out of it. And the same applies to our journey and our karma. How long will I be stuck in this cycle of repeated patterns. Maybe 3 days, maybe 3 years, maybe 30 years, maybe 300 years. It all depends how individual progresses through the stages of karmic cognizance. And of course, the next question is how to change it, how to move through the stages from be denial or anger to that state of acceptance and balance, and understanding that I am not the victim, I am the cause, and that motion will come from me and will be responded in the same way. That is probably one of the most challenging undertaking that this journey presents. And here I would like to read once again passage from Sacred Doctrine. We grow old, our bodies, knowledge, often views, likes, dislikes, change based on experience and circumstances. But change cannot perceive change, and therefore there is omnipresent and eternal, boundless, immutable within us that observes change. It is the perceiver. We should not think it is this body, this mind, these circumstances, acting according to ideas, beliefs we hold. This is really the beginning, where the perceiver can perceive the one who is acting. When we can stop and say, well, I perceive this course of actions. And to say that this body, this mind, the circumstances, this is not permanent, because I can perceive that. Therefore, I can change that. Now, still, how would you start moving on through the process of change? And this is something the student read from Crosby. False beliefs create false destinies. And when we observe how our actions work that create karma, there is an action that is driven by certain need. That need is driven by certain belief. And that belief is driven by from where we derive our self-worth. So if the self-worth derived from material possessions, the belief will be, I need to work more to acquire more. The need will be, I need more physical possessions. And the action will be, disconnect from all beings, work more to acquire that, because that's the self-worth. So to truly examine what drives our actions, we have to look into our core beliefs. And it is the false beliefs that create false destinies, and the true beliefs create true destinies. And that's the perceiver, whom HPB mentions, who have to examine, are our beliefs are the highest one? The other three core, also Crosby spoke of the three core beliefs that can empower individual to change their karma. Number one is the power to create. The belief that as an individual we are empowered to create. We have that power within us, and that's what we're here for. The second one is power to preserve our creation. And the third one, and very important, power to destroy that creation and generate a better one. And that's where also the notion of Vishnu and Shiva comes in, where Shiva destroys what is not, should not exist. And one of the biggest constraints that we often have on changing our karma is values. That we believe that our values are very important and we cannot act differently because this is the value and we cannot destroy that value. But when the perceiver looks, this value was created by the place where we were born, maybe by our families, maybe by certain negative events, maybe by surrounding. They're not permanent. And when we were children, we thought as children. When we're adults, we thought as adults. When we're archangels, we'll think as archangels. So the values are changeable, and the right to destroy values that have not served in the past, we also reserve, because this is same as the power to create. We have both power to create what is good and power to destroy what is bad within us. I have compiled a few readings. Those are readings not from the Sacred Doctrine and not from the teachers. This is from individuals who lived along with us and who also attempted and studied and tried to understand the law of karma and shared their views with us. And some the student found very fascinating, and the last one will be probably favorite that will be shared. The first reading is from Thich Nhat Hanh, a known Buddhist teacher that lives side by side with us. My actions are my only true belongings. I cannot escape the consequences of my actions. My actions are the ground upon which I stand. This is very beautiful, as if you create shaky actions, the ground becomes shaky. The second one is Rabindranath Tagore. Everything comes to us that belongs to us if we create the capacity to receive it. And the next is from Walt Whitman, probably one of the favorites. Henceforth, I ask not good fortune. I myself am good fortune. And that's what creates that abundance that the good karma brings when one is good fortune. And a short passage from Bhagavad Gita. To karma, action alone has thou a right, and never at all to its fruits. Let not these fruits of action by thy motive, neither let there be in thee any attachment to inaction. And this warns us against inaction, that there should not be a fear of accumulating even the karma is negative. This is the process of learning. It's not good or bad. It is a process of evolving. And I would like to conclude by to me it was a surprise passage from Hermann Hesse, The Glass Bead Game. Stages. As every flower fades and as all youth departs, so life at every stage, so every virtue, so our grasp of truth blooms in its day and may not last forever. Since life may summon us at every age, be ready hard for parting, new endeavor, be ready bravely and without remorse to find new light that old ties cannot give. In all beginnings dwells a magic force for guarding us and helping us to live. Serenely let us move to distant places, and let no sentiments of home detain us. The cosmic spirit seeks not to restrain us, but lifts us stage by stage to wider spaces. If we accept a home of our own making, familiar habit makes for indolence. We must prepare for parting and leave-taking, or else remain the slaves of permanence. Even the hour of our death may send up speeding onto fresh and newer spaces, and life may summon us to newer races. So be it hard, bid farewell without end. That concludes the talk, and I think we have plenty of time for questions and hopefully answers.
I can't remember the quote, who did the quote. I don't know if it was Walt Whitman or somebody else that you just read, that it said that everything will come to you if you have the capacity to receive. And I'm wondering whether that capacity might be an emptiness of self.
That was Tagore, and that capacity is certainly a state of calm, of peace, of a state of balance.
Could it be also feeling worthy? Maybe a lot of people don't feel worthy of certain things, so they can't receive it.
The feeling of not feeling worthy comes from feeling self, that there is a self, and maybe it's not worthy or not capable. But once the individual lets go of feeling of self, how can all this life be not worthy? So that's one of the ways I think Theosophy teaches us, not to think, am I good enough, am I worthy to receive, but to feel that unity with the entire universal life. And no one can say that that life is not worthy. And that would open that capacity to receive.
So don't focus on yourself then? In other words, try to focus on the greater good of everyone.
Your diagram where you show the harmonious path. Excuse me. Now, you said that when we disturb that equilibrium, we can be in the positive sphere or the negative sphere. Would you like to comment on it?
That is a very interesting topic. As often we try to do good, we intend to do good, we would help, probably most common with our children, when we would try to tell them what to do, how not to do, where to do, what time to do. But through that helping, we often not realize we're not letting them bloom in their own way, and we are stifling their progress, and the outcome is negative, that they are not making their own decisions. That's probably one of the ways. Sometimes people try to help others because they're trying to fill their own needs, and the people don't really need that type of help because they're able to manage their own circumstances. So it is that a very careful ability to respond to being needed, to be in a situation where you can make a difference and act, but not to maybe impose your goodwill and your ideas on others, because once again we may not be of the right views for the other person how they should grow and evolve.
But doesn't that mean that as you go along through that trial and error period, you are also cultivating discrimination to do better? Because in the Gita that you mentioned, it says that an act or no act is also a crime. In other words, your excuse is, I don't know how to do it very well, so now I'm not going to do anything. So that is also a crime against great nature, that we are to participate in life to the best of our ability. And you said, have courage and be fearless. So you go forth with the best intention and leave the rest to karma.
Yeah, that's, I think, the whole point of the understanding of karma. It's not something to be feared. Act here, act there, and learn from consequences. And then with that learning, come back into the equilibrium, because no being that came from the source can just slide through equilibrium into the goal. That's not how universe experiences itself in a way.
Well, when you're a virgin spirit descending into matter, you are pure, you are immaculate, but you have absolutely no experience. So if the accumulation of experience is the teacher, then, and we willingly participate in it and go along with our daily events, as you said, and accept it, and accept the consequences that come with it, truly then you are in harmony. You can live in the world but not be of the world, because you're centered within yourself and you're harmonious within yourself. It doesn't matter what the others or the environment pull. If you come from that core and you're using the best discrimination you have, because that when you're calm and harmonious, it means you're really in attunement to the higher powers in yourself. So your altruistic efforts will bear fruit in time.
Yeah, that reminds me, one of the things I've read in preparing, somebody wrote that what others do is their karma. How you respond is your karma.
Could you talk a little bit more about the relationship between the emotion and karma?
Emotion and karma.
Emotion.
Emotion is, if there is a way to define it, it is that energy that fuels this chain between action, need, believe, would say each individual has certain things that he derives value from, different type of things. Some people derive value from intellectual creation pursuits and helping others. Others derive from more of a helping professions. Some derive from taking care of others. Some derive from taking care of themselves. Some derive from once again material pursuits. And it comes from the belief of what is right. They don't do it from the malicious reasons. They believe that this is the way it should be. And that goes into need and springs the action. Now the emotion is, the way to put it, is the fuel that fuels the entire string. It is that impulse in the soul that gives rise from the belief to the need, from the need to action. And that's something we actually had a talk about, where Tunjai described quite well on how to control those impulses, because emotions can be impulses of the lower self, but they can be also more of a drives of the higher self. And once again, when we speak of a higher self, it is more of a drive, and when it's a lower, it's more of an impulse. But it is the emotional, so to say, juice that fuels the action. And emotion should be really closely watched. Once it arises, if it really causes action that has to follow immediately, it is better to come to the place of balance, something that was under-mentioned, that we need to be empty and then take the decision and cause the action. So acting on emotions is probably not a good thing. Emotions are to be observed and then controlled by the perceiver.
And you also mentioned something about motion and life. Can you explain that a little bit?
Mm-hmm. There were two passages from the Secret Doctrine that were read today about how from non-actions come action, and how the motion is really beginning of differentiation. And we know that beginning of differentiation is the beginning of the expressed universe, life itself. And when I read there is a very interesting article, it's by HPB, called Life Principle, and it talked exactly about that the motion itself is life, that once there is differentiation, it happens through motion, and through that there is life. And since it is governed by karma, that motion is karma, once there is a motion, it has to happen within the laws of the universe, and that law is karma. So in a way, by default, karma is life, life is karma, and it's like a triangle of the three. The more interesting question is what happens when life is not life, when there is no differentiation, when life is not active during the unexpressed state, during pralaya. What happens to karma and motion and life, that suddenly that principle, that law is sort of collapsed? It's there, but
It's there,
latent.
No one or anything to
Acting.
perceive it. So she says at the end of the activity period, at the end of the mantra, when the highest development through this process that you have described, called evolution, has been reached, then quietude has to come, and the same period of time spent in evolution and has to be spent at rest. That universe works according to strict law, and that's the way it works. So during pralaya, all that exists during activity is within that space, but there's nothing or anything to perceive it. So it is asleep in a sense. All of life gets withdrawn into the absolute. So stage by stage, it is withdrawn. And I wanted to make a statement about emotion. It is R.C.'s, Robert Crosby's statement, where he says that emotion is electricity. That human beings,
Mhm.
in their interactivity,
Mhm.
create this electric power that goes out from yourself towards the other. And that is why when we meet people,
Mhm.
like for the first time, there is either a mutual harmony, or you feel like you're being pushed back,
Mhm.
because it's their emotional electricity that they're creating that you feel. Because what are we? We're electromagnetic.
Mhm.
There is a
Mhm.
electromagnetic inner self, and that emotion is directed directly to that flow of energy.
Mhm. Mhm.
And the other thing she says is that a man who conducts his actions based on emotion and not on reason can never become a beneficent factor in the universe.
Mhm.
It's not mine.
Mhm.
I'm simply repeating this.
So if you're coming back to the emotion, to the motion and life, if you remember that cube, I cannot draw a cube
Yes.
well. So what Tunja described, the cube remains, but there is no ping pong ball bouncing through it.
And in the secret doctrine, HPB says, out-breathing is motion. At the beginning of the cosmic evolutionary process, out-breathing is motion. The out-breathing is the motion of Fahad on the spiritual points of energy in the universe called atoms on here,
Mhm.
which they don't really exist in the physical, but they do exist on the psycho-spiritual plane. So that motion is continuous, it is eternal, non-ending. It's just during the pralaya it is not felt.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that is called out-breathing in the secret doctrine. And in-breathing is absorption of that motion or energy back to its source, as you put your chart up there.
For the most part, we've talked about the belief, maybe our belief systems, and many people have a belief about the world based upon what their experiences have reflected back to them.
Mhm.
And then they use a spiritual basis for how they hopefully will behave in the world. And so the belief is sort of tied to the reflection of the world plus their own spiritual beliefs of maybe the standards of actions and how we should express ourselves in this world. There are people who have had a very negative experience of life. Therefore, their belief about life is very negative, and they don't have faith in humanity. They don't have a good self-worth. Does HPB or in anything that you've come across say anything about how to change that belief to sort of turn that so that the person can see themselves as being more, having more self-worth, to see the world not being so negative? I don't know how to explain
Glad
that.
you
Do you
asked
know
that,
what?
'cause that's great.
Because, you know, to a degree, everybody is on that kind of continuum to living life in a blissful, happy state and seeing themselves as altruistic. And then other people, in a lesser degree, don't have that kind of perception. Thank you.
Especially people with like a personality disorder
Exactly.
that I've been reading about
Yeah.
recently, and I was thinking the same thing.
So, and I
recently.
guess the reason is because we would like to try to see if we could find a little key.
Yeah.
You know, how we could twist that. I'm thinking of electrical charges. And carry a little baton with you and maybe, you know, shock somebody into goodness.
In a way, the entire secret doctrine is just about that. But to give something specific, that's another talk.
Well, there is a therapy called cognitive behavior therapy, and that helps people with their thinking, because their thinking gets distorted when they have those bad experiences, which then create the bad beliefs. So if you work on them, how their thinking is distorted, it can help change it.
Didn't you read something from RC to this effect?
Yes, that was on the that false beliefs create false destinies,
Yeah.
and he spoke of 3 core beliefs: this power to create, power to preserve, and power to destroy.
Those are
Yeah.
perhaps if
Yeah.
you interject that. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't even repeat them, but you can tell her.
But that puts a person at the makes him the one who is acting, and and it leads to that perceiver. For me, that passage was very, very enlightening, to know that all of us are just perceivers, and all of those values, beliefs, self-worth, lack of self-worth, they're all made up, and this perceiver can change it.
Well, RC somewhere also says color it a different color. In other words, I think you said it too, that a lot of people are stuck in one color perception, and they look through that tube into the world. Say you're stuck in red or green or whatever, but you're made of 7 colors, and you have to combine all of them to come to this positive, harmonious place, because that is what it really entails. We're made of 7 colors. So how do you know where the person is, though, is the key. What color are they functioning through? Because the color is representative of a plane of existence as well as a level of consciousness. So if you change the color, say you're stuck in green, change it to bright orange or red or whatever, or yellow, then you're moving away from that plane of thought to a different one. I don't know, I'm not a therapist, and I don't know how to, correlate the colors with emotions, but I'm sure they are.
I studied a little color therapy, and I actually wanted to go into it at one point, but I never got there. But
So-
they sell colored glasses. You can buy, I almost bought a whole set once for like $150 or something, every color. So you could walk around
wear
with
it.
red glasses, blue glasses, green.
Interesting.
If you
mean, look
decided
at
what
the
you
world
needed,
and
you
that,
could walk
but
around
this is
with.
an internal process, I think RC
Yeah.
is
Yeah,
talking
but I
about.
think it also
Your thought,
helps.
perhaps it also helps, I don't know, but he's talking about your internal machinery being changed to reflect it into the outside, because the outside, even though it reflects in, it's the soul that has to make that change to put that motion into effect from inside out, according to that writing anyway. So I'm not a therapist, I certainly do not know, but I do understand what they're saying, that you're stuck in some rotten place and you can't move away from it, and you have to color it a different color.
But that's also, when we speak of karma, it is the karma's job to move us from that rotten place, because when a person is stuck in the rotten place, bad things will be happening to push that person to move. And in a way, we cannot take responsibility for changing other person. We can be abundant and be who we are, but trying to help a person who still have 25 events to help that person move, and we can help. What we cannot do is we can get upset that the person is not changing, because they have 25 events ahead of them, and same ahead of us. That the only thing we can change is change ourselves and our perception at where we stand in this universal life.
Speaking of changing ourselves,
Okay.
Are you attempting?
every day. The core beliefs, how do they help us? The
They-
core beliefs that you mentioned, the power to create, preserve, and destroy. How do they help us? How do we use them to change?
They turn us from the victim to the godlike beings. Things are not happening to us. We are creating them, we are destroying them, and we're creating better things to replace them. This is really a shift from the victim to a creator.
Well, does one need to have something traumatic, dramatic, catastrophic to occur in one's life in order to bring about such a change, if one was uninitiated into Theosophy?
For everyone differently. Depending on karma, some will come to it more peacefully, some will come to it more catastrophically. depending on our responses.
This student's experience in life is that a similar experience came to this student because the student did not understand what it meant and how to accept it, synthesize it, and look at it as a beneficent force. And once that reversal happened, and you look at the event as a beneficent event in your life, truly it changes it around, and you become the doer of good rather than that attitude that you're the victim of it. Why is it coming to me? Why on earth is this happening to me all the time? Every month, every other week. Because I haven't learned the lesson. But once you learn it, it reverses.
I think it was Crosby who also wrote to that how to recognize karmic events. And one of this was patterns. If the same situation kept happening over and over, then the other one was coincidences. If you met this person here and the person said something interesting, you say, it was interesting. And then 3 days you just bump into the person. They have a message for you. Something is there. And another one was when something causes lots of pain and takes lots of attention. That is also something karmic happening, that it draws your attention to that. So that's a few things. And on how to change beliefs, there is a very, very nice story about a monkey in Africa. The monkey that the poachers catch this monkey because the monkey grabs a nut and gets stuck. It puts its paw in the sort of like a fence, and there are nuts, and grabs the nut, but with the nut it cannot pull it out. And then they get the monkey. So the monkeys believe that that nut is so valuable, so valuable, can't let go of it. Even more valuable than his own life. But if the monkey could come into the peace and balance and think, is that nut that good? Does it hold that much value to me? Maybe I should let go of the nut and run. But because it cannot shift the value, the nut is precious. It just holds on and dies for that nut.
Monkey, not a thinking being.
Exactly, exactly. And we are, and that's what...
They go by instinct. And survival is dependent on food.
Oh, you mentioned unity relative to karma. Unity is mentioned quite a bit. What actually is it in the way that you describe? Is it the same?
Unity is basically what the universe is trying to achieve. It's what it's putting in the balance. When things are not in the state of unity, it is out of balance. And it is our actions when they are not serving the good cause for all, are becoming out of balance.
So you have put us right in the center of helping move the future, if you will. You back to Mom's sayings, you're making your own bed as you go along. You're going to have to lie in it. Is that what you're telling me?
Pretty much.
With the power to change.
Yes.
With the power to
There is
change.
another story I came across while reading, preparing. It was about a student who came to his Zen master and said, Master, can't do my job anymore. These people were mean to me. I need to get a new job. You know, I've changed 3 jobs, and in each place people were mean to me. I need to do a real career change. Should I do that? And the master said, absolutely. You should change your job the day when your coworkers throw you a party, go away party, then move. He came back and said, okay, they're not going to do it, they hate me, but I want to leave this job. And the master said, can't leave the job till they throw me a party. So he started working towards making sure that coworkers throw him a party. And when coworkers threw him a party, he realized he didn't want to leave.